be this growing trend amongst authors who have best-selling trilogies and series that people just love and adore. And this fad is really getting old and pissing me off. So let's talk about this. Hello, my bookworms, and welcome to my very first Bookish Chat. Yes, something new and different. That's two new things in the month of March. I'm on a roll. I usually just do reviews for you guys. I don't ever really sit down and actually talk about books and bookish things, so let's do this. To give you guys a quick update as to where I am in my March Marathoni Madness, because it is around the middle of the month. It's March 19th, so yeah, it's almost done. I have completed the Vampire Academy series, and I have just completed the Legend trilogy by Marie Lu. And yes, I am fully aware that I have previously called her Mary Lou, and I don't know why I did that, but I did. So I'm correcting myself now, and I apologize, Marie Lou. From the deepest pit of my heart, I apologize. I am on The Knife of Never Letting Go, which is book one in the Chaos Walking trilogy. So, needless to say, no, I'm not going to complete the almighty March Marathoni Madness challenge because I still have books two and book three of the Chaos Walking trilogy, Anna Dressed in Blood, Girl of Nightmares, and the Ugly series to complete. So, yeah, that's not happening, but hopefully, I will complete The Knife of Never Letting Go by the end of the month. I also apologize for the lighting situation going on behind me if it keeps changing from light to dark. It's very sunny out, but then it gets really cloudy, and then it gets really sunny again. Welcome to England! In completing the Legend trilogy, I am starting to notice this big fad that's coming over these series books and these trilogy books that are very popular amongst young adults. And don't worry, this isn't really a rant. It's more of just talking and just expressing ourselves. What is this fad? What am I talking about? It is the so many years later fad where the story ends and then the author continues on for a few pages with the futures of these characters that we've come to know and love. And really, we have J.K. Rowling to thank for this because I believe she's the one who kicked it off with the 19 years later in Deathly Hallows. I could be wrong, but that's my first memory of ever coming across a series book where it was so many years later and you get a big spiel about these characters and their lives. Why is this pissing me off? Well, for a lot of reasons. One, I don't believe it belongs in there to an extent. I mean, well, yes, as readers, we like to know their futures. We do. I like to know that they live on not happily ever after, but happily. And sometimes you get it and you're really happy about it. You're like, yes. And then other times you get it and you just shake your head because you're like, the hell was the author thinking? This is a crowd pleaser. What is this garbage? And there's some of them that are just okay to deal with, that, it upsets you or it just annoys you, but you can live. And then you get other ones where you're just sitting there like, seriously? Seriously. There's only four books I'm really going to talk about where this situation has happened, and two of them are going to be the okay situations, and the other two are the ones I can't. They just upset me very much. Champion by Marie Lu. That's the first one that I was okay with. It annoyed me, yes. But that's because the entire romance in that book annoyed me. I didn't think it belonged in there. It felt very forced to me, but I will get into that once as I do my reviews, or at least post it up for you guys. You get a 10 years later with the main character, June, and you find out all what's happened in her life in those 10 years, and you get her happy ever after. And that kind of annoyed me because I really liked how it ended before you got that 10 years later. It wasn't a happily ever after. I feel it should have really cut off where it did in the Legend trilogy. I don't think Marie Lu should have went on with the story to give us a 10 years later, because I personally really liked how it ended. Again, it's just me because I felt the romance throughout that entire series was in fact very forced upon us, and that when it ended the way it ended, that it actually seemed fitting, that actually worked for me. That's not what happened. No, no, no. You gotta give these characters a happily ever after, and that just makes me so mad. Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. Yes, the final installment to the Hunger Games trilogy. Well, yes, through that entire book, I shipped Katniss and Peeta because I thought Peeta was just adorable, and Katniss has to save him because he's useless. And if she was with Gale, who would she have to protect? She doesn't have to protect Gale. Gale's like Buffy and annoying. Peeta, on the other hand, was useless and he needed protecting, so Katniss fit for that. But you get the so many years down the road where her and spoilers! If you haven't read the last Hunger Games book, please click off now or mute me until I give you a thumbs up and then proceed. And Peeta got married and have a child. Seriously? Because in that entire series, it was kind of like Katniss was anti-children because she didn't want to bring them into that type of world. She didn't want her kids to have to be picked out and do the Hunger Games. I mean, granted, yes, at the end of the Hunger Games, it actually ends. Like, there's no more Hunger Games going on, but still, she didn't want to bring a kid into that world. She didn't want them to suffer the way she had to suffer. And then at the end, because Peeta has been trained and brainwashed to hate her, and granted, yes, he starts to overcome that, but he still has his issues with it, but they end up together and they end up having a baby, and it pisses me off. Mockingjay wasn't so bad though, because you can actually see that ending kind of fitting. Although I still think it was more of a crowd pleaser. Now on to the ones that there's no words to describe the anger I feel for them. Clockwork Princess. Yes, yes, I know, hate me. I hated the ending to Clockwork Princess. No, no, you cannot have both. You pick one. You cannot have both. Spoilers again! If you guys have not read The Infernal Devices or you have not finished Clockwork Princess, please mute me or click away until I give you a thumbs up. At the end of Clockwork Princess, Tessa ends up with Will, and okay, that I understand because Jem was dying. Jem turned into a silent brother, and he can't have children, and you think Tessa can't have children either, but Jem has to give up all material things to become a silent brother, so that's okay. I understand why she would end up with Will, but then you find out she actually has a baby with Will, and then it's so many years down the road, not even years, it's like centuries, because she goes from the Victorian era into like our day and age, and she sees Jem, who was no longer a silent brother because he was cured or he changed back because he was never fully changed. At the end of that, she gets with Jem. She gets both. She gets the best of both worlds. And you cannot have that. No. She should pick one. You can either have Jem or you can have Will. And while yes, I love Tessa and Jem together, and I think it's because I want William Herondale for myself, but she got both. You cannot do that. And I understand Tessa's immortal, that she's not just going to love Will and never love again. And she actually did love Jem, but I don't think that's fair. That's not fair. You can't do that. I feel Cassandra Clare just did it in a way to please everybody. She's like, well, I can't please everybody. I mean, if I put Tessa with Will, it's going to upset the Tessa Jem fans. But if I put her with Jem, it's going to upset the Willem fans. And it's going to be a big mess. So here's what I'm going to do. They're going to get both. Yes, they're going to get both. You can't have both. You can't do that to us. That's not fair. And I know a lot of people are like, I love that ending. It was so perfect. I hated it. One, it was way, way too long. And two, she cannot end up with both people. That's not, no. No. So you guys understand what I mean by it was a crowd pleaser with that one. Like, Cassandra Clare just seriously, she was like, I can't upset my fans, so I'm gonna do it this way. And I love Cassandra Clare. I love all of these authors that I'm talking about. Like, I love the Legend trilogy by Marie Lu. I love the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins. I loved The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. And this last one is my all-time favorite series. It's what got me into reading, but the ending, oh god, the ending. J.K. Rowling. What the hell? Yes, I'm talking about Deathly Hallows, people. That one was just that I understand. Just no, no. You want to talk about the ultimate crowd pleasers? You want to talk about an author writing her own fan fiction, or she's going off of people's fan fiction? That's what that was. I feel like the 19 years later was a fan fiction. Like, she was like, I need somebody to finish off Deathly Hallows for me, so she went to a fan and went, write me up some fan fiction, and that's what we got. That's what we got. And the worst part is, we didn't even get to know about all of these characters that we've come to know and love. I mean, the important characters. I mean, yeah, we find out about the trio because they were the main ones. They're the ones we all needed to know about. But you don't find out about the other half. You don't. We find out about them through interviews and stupid things like that. At the end of Deathly Hallows, you find about Harry, you find out about Ron, Hermione, Ginny, and Draco. Draco. Of all the characters, Draco. I think what really, really pissed me off about the end of Deathly Hallows was the fact that my favorite characters were never mentioned. I mean, everyone's favorite characters were not Harry, Ron, or Hermione. Those were not everyone's favorite characters. In fact, I could care less about those characters. Granted, yes, there's a special place in my heart for those three. But I didn't care enough about them to be like, that's all I wanted to know about. No, no. My favorite characters were the Weasley twins and Luna Lovegood. And I didn't get satisfaction in knowing what happened to them. No, no, I did not. I would love to tell you guys that this is going to be a spoilery part for Deathly Hallows, but if you haven't seen the movies yet, or you haven't read the books, that's your own fault. Get on that shit. And if I spoil it for you, tough patooties. During the Battle of Hogwarts, Fred dies. Yes, Fred. Fred Weasley, George's other half, his twin, his business partner, his partner in crime, dies. Which means half of George dies with him. That there is going to be this hole that is just ripped out from George, and he's going to be left alone for the rest of his life. Like, no one can fill that void of Fred, but nobody. Nobody. Do we find out what happened to him at the end of Deathly Hallows? Hell no. No, because he wasn't important enough, and that bothered me. And when J.K. Rowling came out and said, what happened to George? I wanted to pimp slap her. Here's George's 19 years later. He still runs his shop. He has a son named Fred. I think he has another child too, but he's got a son named Fred. And he married Angelina Johnson. Angelina frickin' Johnson. Fred's girlfriend. He married Fred's girlfriend. Does anybody else find that like remotely disturbing that those two would get together? I mean, seriously. What? To put this in perspective to people who don't find it that weird that she married George even though she was dating Fred, it's kind of like if my husband had a twin brother and my husband unfortunately died and I went off and married his twin. It would be so weird because I wouldn't associate him as his own person. He would still be my husband. In which case, I think that's what Angelina's case was. Like, you're not George, you're going to be Fred for me. In which case, when they had their baby, when Fred was born, that had to have been just really weird. I mean, I understand George, that he would name his first son after Fred. I get that. I believe that. But for Angelina to date George after Fred and then marry him and then have a family with him and then name their first kid Fred is just, it's so weird. So I don't believe in that pairing. I don't believe it at all. I'll say the fact that J.K. Rowling made it seem like George just bounced right back right after the war. That he wasn't affected by it. That he was just like, I don't want to reopen my shop and nothing's going to happen, this and that. And that really bothers me because that would never happen. So then on to Luna. Yeah, hers isn't as bad as George's, and hers I kind of understand a bit more. She grows up and she starts this animal creature thing going on. I want to say she's like an environmentalist, but she doesn't deal with environments. It's something like that. She does something with creatures, and she proves that some of these creatures that she used to believe in, that people thought she was loony for, she starts to prove their existence. But she goes and she marries this guy named Ralph Schmuckanander? Luna Shacamander. That's not how you say it either. I know it's not, but no. Who is he? I don't like these characters being paired off with other characters that we know nothing about. So it was kind of like they asked about Luna Lovegood, like some fans, like, oh, what happened to Luna in the 19 years later? And J.K. Rowling's like, oh, she does this, this, and this. And she gets married to this guy named Ralph Shacamander. Yeah, that's what happened. That upsets me. Who the hell is he? I want to know his story. Is he good for Luna? know I'm freakishly attached to these characters, but I grew up with these characters. I was 11 when I started reading these books. So yes, I want to know who they end up with. They're like my little children. They're like my best friends, and you're like, I don't know if I approve of this guy. Who is he? That's only one of the parts that really irritate me about the Deathly Hallows 19 years later. The other part is the shipping. If you guys do not know what shipping is by now, it is basically where you just have two characters that you believe belong together romantically, and you're just like, yes! So it's like the Hermione and Ron and all of that going on, or the Katniss Peeta type of situation, and they like smush their names together. In the Harry Potter world, all the Harry Potter fans by now know this, that J.K. Rowling wishes, in a sense, that she paired Harry off with Hermione. While I don't care that she's changing her mind, that she believes now in something else, it, in the same token, kind of irritates me because you're just like, you shouldn't have wrote the 19 years later then. You could have just let me be happy and create their own endings, and I would have been contently happy with this and believed that maybe, just maybe, you were going to write another series about Harry and his later years, like do a whole series about that. But no, you had to give me a 19 years later where you don't even explain half of the characters. So basically, at the end of Deathly Hallows, you have Harry with Ginny, which a lot of people shipped, and you have Ron with Hermione, which majority of us shipped, because I really feel like just I didn't really care enough about them. I know that sounds so bad, but I didn't. I didn't care enough to actually get upset that they were paired off with who they were paired off with. Although I feel that Harry with Ginny was very forced, and that J.K. Rowling was just like, here, have it. If you guys agree with me, let me know below, or if you guys agree with J.K. Rowling's 19 years later, because that's the biggest issue I have with this whole situation. So who do you guys ship? Let me know below, because I'm curious about this, and as an author, I like to know some of the reasons that people ship characters together, if it's just because you feel that they belong together, or if there's good chemistry behind them, whatever it is, or if you feel I need to jump on that train. Yeah, I do. Let me know below in the comments. Also, do not forget to subscribe. Awesome links are below of Twitter, Facebook, Book Depository, where the books are free shipping. Yeah, they're awesome like that. So follow that link, purchase some books, and until then, you guys, happy reading!